Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Donna, and for those of you not new, thank you for continuing to come back and support me. I love you guys so much, and I just can't be more grateful that you all chose to click on my video today. I know that you don't have to do that, so it warms my heart so very much that you do. Today is the next installment in my Palette Roulette series, in which we talk about the Modern Renaissance palette. This is the palette that was chosen for me last week. For those of you who are unfamiliar with my Palette Roulette series, I will go ahead and link up in the cards my first video in this series in which I explain what I'm doing. I'm not going to go a whole lot into that today. I do explain a little bit about it, but not a whole lot. The first video in the series really does go into it, but I also have information down in my drop down box full of like who inspired this and what this is about. So last week my app chose the Modern Renaissance palette for me. This is a cult classic here on the YouTubes. Everybody has this palette, and if you don't have this palette, like, where have you been? This is an ABH palette, and it does have the normal to ABH like soft texture feel to the palette. It's like a kind of like a felt almost. It does get super dirty. I don't know if you guys can tell that on my palette, but it is pretty dirty. The front looks like this, and the back does have all the information on the palette. ABH is a cruelty-free brand, and you can see that with the little symbol down here for cruelty-free. This palette looks like this on the inside. It does have a nice size mirror. It does bend all the way back, which is awesome. And this is what the palette looks like on the inside. It does come, all of her palettes come with a free, well, with the palette, two-sided brush. I don't typically use dual-ended brushes, and even if I did, all the palettes of mine that do have a brush with them get the brush taken out and put into either my brush bin or my dual-sided brush drawer, because I don't use dual-sided brushes. I should just find somebody to give them all to. This shadow palette, like with any other shadow palette by ABH, has 14 shades in it. It does have 7 on top and 7 on bottom. It is a mix of mattes and metallics. This is a palette that's inspired by the resins and paints of the Renaissance. So ABH created this palette with 14 highly pigmented shades that range from neutral to super cranberry, which is accurate, as you guys can see just looking at the palette. I feel like it reminded me a lot of the Violet Voss palette that I did last week. And the finishes range from matte to metallic. I will say that there are a couple of finishes in here that were more satin, I feel like, than matte. And there are only 2 true metallics in this palette, which are these 2 here. And they are Vermeer and Primavera. Other than that, like this antique bronze, which is in my eye look today, is also, it does have a little bit of shimmer to it, but I feel like it's more of a satin than it is a shimmer, if that makes any sense. I have to say these 2 colors here, Venetian Red and Love Letter, were probably my 2 favorite colors in the palette. I did use them most often, but I did use all these colors. I've had an orange look that I did one day with this raw sienna, burnt orange, and Realgar, and then I popped on my highlight that I used for the day actually as my shimmer, because I didn't think either one of these 2 shimmers would go really well with that eye look, and I loved it, and I think I forgot to take a picture of it. So I'm hoping that I didn't. Let me go back in my phone and see if I did. Yeah, I definitely forgot to get a picture of it. It's really sad because I really loved the look. I was wearing a coral dress that day and it looked so great, and I'd had a long day that day and I totally forgot to take a picture at the beginning of the day, and then when I got home I took my makeup off and forgot to get a picture of it before it went away. So I've only got a few pictures for you this week. This palette, as you know, I didn't start until, I think it was Tuesday this week. So I had one day less with this palette than I typically do. I will say that all the shades in this palette do feel super sweet. They're nice and buttery and creamy to the touch. Even the two shimmers are super creamy and buttery to the touch. There's really finely milled pigments. As I said, there are 14 shadows in this, and this palette costs $42. Each pan in this palette is 0.02 ounces, which is less than half of the size of a ColourPop shadow, if that tells you anything about the cost of these pans. At $42, you are paying $3 for each pan of shadow, and each of those pans is half the size of a ColourPop shadow. So, what is that? I'm not saying that they're horrible. I will tell you that these shadows are super powdery, but super pigmented. You don't need much to go in on your eye with to get the color payoff that you want, but they are powdery. Every single time I dip my brush into them, I had to blow the powder out of the pan. I did do a get ready with me with this palette that'll be coming probably next week or maybe this week, and you'll see that as well in the get ready with me. That's probably also why the outside of the packaging is filthy. I didn't like that there was only 2 shimmers in here. I felt a little bit, held back in my eye looks by the fact that there were only 2 shimmers in here. I did use this color here, which is called Tempera, in my brow bone every single day because it's the lightest shade to use, and neither one of these shimmers really did it for me in my crease or in my brow bone. I did use this color or this color as a laid down transition shade on my eye almost every day. They were the coolest, or not the coolest, the most accurate depiction of my skin tone. So those are the 2 that typically went into my crease for transition shade. Today I am wearing this, what is this called? Buon Fresco shade. I am also wearing this Antique Bronze, this Love Letter shade, and Primavera right in the center of my eye for that halo eye look. I really dig how this eye look turned out today. I really love it. I loved every look that came out of this palette. It won't be a palette that's escaping my collection anytime soon. I just don't pull for it very much. I do have a lot more... I do have these colors all over in my collection because this was the thing for like 2018 into 2017, and all of our shadow palettes had these shades. I do love this palette though, so it won't escape my collection anytime soon. So let's get into the swatches that I have for you. So this is the top row here. This first one here is Tempera. This is, like I said, the one that went into my brow bone on a daily. This next one here is Golden Ochre. This became like my transition shade almost on a daily. This is Vermeer. This is one of the only shimmer shades in the palette. This one is, that one I have a hard time saying, Buon Fresco. I think it's a really pretty, like, orchid color. This is Antique Bronze. It does have a little bit of shininess to it. I think it is more of a satin than it is a shimmer, but I think it might have been meant to be a shimmer. I'm not really sure. Then we have this one, which is Love Letter. It was one of my favorite shades in the palette. Both of these colors are on my eye look today. And then this one, which is Cypress Umber, that is the darkest shade in the palette for a brown. It is a very gray toned brown. Cold. Second row, we have this one, which is Raw Umber. It also became a transition shade. This is Built Up. so that you guys can see it, but this is actually a pretty light shade. And this next one here is burnt orange. I loved this color on my eyes. It looked so good. This one here is the other shimmer in the palette, and it is called Primavera. This one is Red Ochre. It is the deepest red tone in the palette and has kind of a brown feel to it, honestly. And then this one, which is Venetian Red, which also was one of my favorites in the palette. It kind of has a more pink tone to it, but looked really good with my orange eye look as well, because it has a little bit of an orange flare to it. This one here is Warm Taupe, which it is Warm Taupe. And then this one here is called Realgar. I'm not really sure. You'll see in the Get Ready With Me that I had the same kind of stumble over the name of that shade right there, which I think it's Realgar, but it could be Realgar. I'm not sure. So I don't have very many pictures to show you, so I won't be sitting here very much, but Modern Renaissance has a cult following here on YouTube. We all know that. This palette is not going anywhere in my collection, and as dusty as the ABH shadows are, in my opinion, and in pretty much everybody's opinion, they are spectacular shadows. Well worth the $42 that you're paying for the little tiny pans of shadow. But they are also a shadow that you really don't have to go in, like, you don't have to dig in. I've never dug into my shadows ever, but these shadows, if you are a digger into your shadows, you don't have to do that with ABH shadows. They're super pigmented from the minute you pick them up on your brush. I did use them mostly with a primer on my eyes, but I did notice that when I wasn't using a primer on my eyes, because of the pigmentation of them and because they literally just kind of stain. This is the finger that I used to put both of the red tones on my finger, because they just kind of stain your skin because of the pigmentation in them. You don't really need a primer. They last. Their longevity is really good. I know that day that I had the orange eye look on my eyes, it was on my eyes for a good 15 hours before I took it off, and it still looked very similar to how I had put it on. The parts of my eyes that were falling apart, in my opinion, were my eyeliner and my mascara, which had nothing to do with the ABH shadows. I love ABH as a brand. Their shadows are, am I in the middle? Their shadows are pretty spectacular, in my opinion. So, real quick and easy little video today. I am super glad that I came up with the looks I did with this palette. There is one look, I think it was the first look that I showed you was my non-primer look, and as you can see, those pictures were actually taken at the end of the day, and as you can see, my eyes still looked decent. Not like I had just applied the shadows, but my eyes still looked decent at the end of the day, which is what I'm saying about these shadows. You don't have to worry about them 4 hours into your day, 5 hours into your day. They're still going to be there. So now we've come to the part of my video where we choose our next palettes. I do have all this information down in my drop down, but for those of you who are unaware, I have a Samsung Note 9, and I use an app that I got out of the App Store called Decide Now. The person who really inspired me to do this series, her name is Danny, from her channel named Danny Bo, and she has an iPhone. So, and she uses the same kind of app, so I know that you can get these like Wheel of Fortune apps from any of the app stores for any of the the services that are provided by your phone, depending on what kind of phone you have. This is what mine looks like. You just download the app, you choose the wheel that you want your information to go into, and you put all of that information into this wheel. So my wheel has all of my palettes in it, except for some palettes that I haven't shown you guys yet in a haul, which are coming, or palettes that I have already done. And then you just push the button and it spins. Well, it's not going to show you. It spins for a new palette. So our palette for next week is the ABH Prism palette, which is funny. We're just going to get all the ABH palettes done all at the same time. Let me go get that one. I'll be right back. So this is the ABH Prism palette. We're just going to get all the ABH shadows out of the, this is the Prism palette. This is what's next. And last couple weeks we've been dealing with a lot of like rosy tones and cranberry tones, and this week we have this. That is some crazy stuff. This is more of a fall palette in my opinion. I use this more in the fall time. I pair it a lot with Subculture, if I'm being honest, but I'm excited to use it. I haven't picked it up in a hot minute, so as you can see, the palette is pretty clean and really beautiful on the outside. So we will use this palette over the next week, and we will come back to you with a video using this palette. I'm hoping to start incorporating a get ready with me throughout the week using my Palette Roulette palette. I do have a video using the ABH Modern Renaissance that'll be going up shortly. I also have one using the Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette that we used not that long ago. I have been holding on to that for a hot minute because of the content within that palette. I wanted to make sure some things were on the up and up before I posted that palette. So that get ready with me will be going up probably as a bonus video at some point in time. Putting get ready with me into my plan of action for my weekly videos kind of throws me into this place where I probably will be posting 4 times a week versus 3 times a week moving forward, if I can get my shit together, because we all know I've been a struggle bus for the last several weeks just trying to get my new work life and my YouTube life and my personal life balance going on. I promise you I will get there. But with that being said, you might have some bonus videos thrown at you until I figure out a new schedule and how that's going to work with my life, incorporating another video into my weekly lineup. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you are enjoying your June so far. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you did, that you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. It really does help our channels out there. It also lets me know that you're watching and you like what you're watching. I hope that you're also considering subscribing to my channel on the way out of here today, or before you leave today. Hopefully you liked me, or you like this content enough that you think you might want to do that. I also hope that you hit that bell so that you're notified every single time that I upload. I do have quite a bit of videos coming in the near future. I know I have my GMC gratis haul part 1 and part 2, and both videos are 30+ minutes long, which I was mortified about, but I think that you guys will enjoy watching the gratis haul that I got, and I could not wait to film it for you. I finally got it all together and finally got it filmed, and then it took me about 7 hours? 7 hours just to edit it. That doesn't include the converting and the uploading of it to YouTube, so that was a crazy hot mess. But I do have those videos coming shortly, and I hope that you guys are having an amazing day, and I hope you stick around to watch that. Thank you guys so much for joining me today again, and I hope to see you in the comment section. Until next time, bye guys.